So I've been trying to remember to do that.
I'm aware that anytime we have a guest, it is more work for you.
Yeah.
It's weird because like half of our crew is a guest, really.
Mm-hmm.
But they kind of like have it figured out by
We're
now.
all, everybody in the group is kind of dialed as far as that goes.
We've chastised them enough times behind the scenes to tell them like, hey, you have to do this.
Yes.
Otherwise you can't be here.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are. And it works pretty well.
Yeah.
And, some people don't show up as much anymore, but yeah.
Some people, you mean all people, I think.
Yeah. Come on, guys. Just we're fun.
I mean,
right?
outside of Steve,
yeah,
it's pretty much a crapshoot for maybe a Jesse every once in a while.
Yeah. Get some Steve. Some Steve. God,
I just said that. Yeah. Good job. Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to the podcast.
The Campfire Passport podcast.
Mike on the Campfire Passport podcast, and we get some Tyson. There's levels. Mm-hmm. There are levels to this.
Yeah.
That we're running into. And that is just, I think that we need more of them. It's funny because I started this saying we should probably have no people on it.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, man, it'd be nice to have somebody carry the conversation a little further.
Yeah.
Although I said it before, I think that you and I doing a podcast, just the two of us, works out okay too. But we have to know we're going to do it. The problem is when we go...
It is harder to wing it.
Yeah, when we go into it thinking we're going to have a guest or like a couple of other people, and then all of a sudden we don't. And then it's a lot less like, oh no, there's a bunch of pressure now. Mm-hmm. But whatever, it's been fine.
Yeah. What he's trying to say is we don't need you guys.
Yeah.
But it would be nice if you were here.
That's nice. That's a nice sentiment. We don't need you. We want you. It's love. Mm-hmm. It's not because we have to have you here, because we don't.
No.
We're fine by ourselves. But if we had a little extra help, sure wouldn't hurt.
Might be nice,
Sure wouldn't hurt.
More hands make less work.
You already did the thing, huh? You said, welcome to the Campfire Passport podcast. You kind of split it up, though. Is that okay? Does that count? You make the rules.
I'll just do the intro song twice now because you said it twice.
Yeah. Okay. Well, today we're going old school and we're recording an intro after the fact. We had a guest on, and he is Matt from Rome 4 Low, and it was a good time. A lot of good conversation there. He is like we are. He is a guy that is interested in driving, interested in cars, interested in wheeling, and camping and overlanding kind of comes as a baggage to those things. I think I don't want to speak for him, but I think that's the way it sounds like. And it's like you do it because it's a great way to go do that while you're off-roading. And I think I'm that way. I think most of our friends are that way to an extent. So it was nice. We had a lot in common in talking about that kind of stuff. Other than that, I will let you guys listen to the podcast to get all of the information. There's not anything that I want to like spoil out of it. But it was a good time. They have some cool stuff. They run a shop out of Atlanta, or Atlanta area. I think
I mean, forgive me if I can't.
So sorry,
say
guys.
That I think it's Toca.
Okay.
TOCCOA.
Okay. So for all of
Toccoa?
our southeastern listeners, that's the place you need to go because he obviously knows what he's doing, making cool stuff. Pretty cool frontier. That's my teaser.
Yeah, there we go. Another Nissan guy.
Why were we doing with all the Nissan guys? That's so weird. Also, another drift guy turned overland off-roader.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Maybe we should do like an invitational for just drift people.
For just drift off-roaders. Yeah.
It's going to be like 4 of them. It's going to be so much fun. I wanted to say, I said this before we even started recording. I was actually starting this on the first intro we tried to record. The last podcast I listened to, which is episode 44, 2 episodes behind this because because of the delay in production, of course.
Yes.
We talked about 2 things that I want to bring up. One of them is Lewis Hamilton, and they're both about F1. Spoiler.
Of course.
The first one is Lewis Hamilton. I said very adamantly he will not win the British GP, and you agreed. And Jesse agreed.
Yeah.
And Steve probably agreed just by being there. I don't know. But it turns out he won. So I just want to throw that out there.
You were loud wrong.
Yep. And I think I'm going to keep saying that Hamilton will lose in order for him to, I'm not going to say win, but maybe he's got a better chance. I don't know. Real quick before I leave that subject, did you watch the interview of Jeremy Clarkson at the track at the British GP?
Which one?
Well,
Because there's so many of them these days.
Yeah, I'm sure, because he's so popular.
Yes.
He's being, it's like a TikTok or some stupid thing, and he's talking about how he has a weather station at his farm.
Oh, yes.
Right? And that's how he knew it was going to rain. And because he knew it was going to rain, he said the old guys are going to do well today.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, Hamilton comes through and wins. So pretty great. The second thing I want to bring up in regards to F1 is that I made
on our F1 podcast.
Yeah, on our F1 podcast, or Volkswagen F1 podcast. I made a couple references to George Russell being really pale.
A vampire, yeah.
Yep. He's definitely a vampire, but I started watching it and I realized he just has a pale energy. He's not that pale. I said he made Max Verstappen look tan, and Max Verstappen probably is, I don't know how many, shades of skin, whatever I don't know what the measure is. He's more pale than George Russell, but his energy is not.
Mm-hmm.
I think that George Russell
he just woke up and got out of the coffin, so it's tough to put on a personality, I guess.
Oh, he's got to figure it out.
He's just bored with life because it's been so long since he was born.
Thank you for being here so late. In my work, I actually have this weird abundance of East Coast customers right now. And I always they feel bad in the morning. I feel bad in the afternoon. Like every day, this is what's going on in my life. I'm like, well, yeah. I'm, off at 3:00 basically.
Yeah. Yeah, no, honestly, it's really not too late for us. We usually, like right now, I would usually just be at the shop working on the truck. So I'm actually getting a nice little break right now. So, I guess it's better than I was supposed to be putting a radiator in my truck tonight. So.
Oh, okay. Well, at least we're giving you a break as opposed to taking money out of your pocket, because that's the alternate, basically.
Yeah, I guess it could be worse, right?
So I'm like vaguely familiar with what you do. Colin is a little more familiar, but I'm gonna baseline it. And could you kind of fill in the details? It sounds like you and your friends, partner, maybe people put together some overland, like an off-road. I guess maybe more off-road than overland, which is our speed. Adventure trips and guided them, and then kind of transitioned that into a shop, right?
Yeah. So, I guess kind of my background, I originally started in motorsports. I started a track day company, that transitioned into a drift company, and had some track friends that were overlanding and getting out, doing some more off-road stuff. And I kind of got into it. And it was more of just a hobby in the beginning. And then I hosted a guided ride, and it kind of blew up, and that was kind of when Rome for Low started. And since then, we've done a ton of guided rides all around the country, and couple of our guides had been talking about wanting to open a shop, and a lot of guys were at Land Cruiser specialty shops, or four-wheel drive shops in general. And we kind of decided, through a lot of beers around campfires, that we should actually make this happen. And then about 8 months ago we opened our shop, and it's just been chaos ever since.
Nice. So one thing that I don't know that everybody knows about us is that Colin really kind of started this business as guiding service, and kind of added in the podcast because we also have a lot of terrible ideas. Not that yours is terrible, but a lot of terrible ideas around the fire. And we decided, man, it might be fun to see if people want to listen to this. And so that's what
Yep.
we've been doing. But that's awesome. That's got to be fun and probably pretty, pretty cool to bring people along and show them new things. And I'm sure you get all kinds of skill levels, right? I would think.
Oh yeah. We have we have a lot of people that have never done it before, and they go on some of our easier trips. And then we've got guys that are really really experienced. For example, in a couple weeks we're heading to the Rubicon, and we've got a good group of guys that are
Nice.
going that are really really experienced. Never been to the Rubicon, but um, we got a big group to go do that too. So I think it's kind of fun. We get a little bit of both worlds. Um, I personally like the guys that have a little bit more experience, just because I'm more of a hardcore wheel guy. But a lot of the friends that we've made over the years are guys that have never really done this, and we took them out and put a dent in their brand new 4Runner or Tacoma, and now they're hooked. So
Yeah.
it's been pretty
Yeah,
fun.
that's awesome. So how you're going to the Rubicon soon, you said?
Yeah, we leave August 17th. We are going to be
Okay.
leaving from here in Georgia and street driving all the trucks across the country, camping along the way, and
Wow.
then we'll be to
Yep.
the Rubicon on the 20th, and we're going to spend 3 days
Nice.
crossing the Rubicon.
It's a good call.
Perfect.
Yeah, so we just did the
Hopefully.
Rubicon,
Mhm.
and it was awesome. First time. We're Pacific Northwest people, so it's not that far, obviously, but it's a little drive.
Mhm.
But God, it was awesome. I looking at your stuff, you guys are gonna do just fine. You're gonna lead people through
Yeah.
there just fine. It's a cool trail. Have you done it before at all?
I have not done it. I've never wheeled in California ever.
Okay.
So I'm pretty excited to get that far out there. And I mean,
Yeah.
I'm really on the fence right now. Like part of me says I'm just going to breeze through, and I have friends that have been there, and they're like, "You're going to be fine." And then I get on the Rubicon Facebook group, and I'm packing way more spares than I probably need now. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of torn, but I'm pretty excited to go experience it. So
Heck yeah. Yeah, I think I don't know if Colin will agree with me here. I'm curious to hear his point. I think the Rubicon is a real choose your own adventure. There's a certain level that
Mhm.
you're going to have to get to, and it looks like you're probably prepared with some Moab driving, some things like that are going to like have you at the base. And if you stick yourself there and you spot through it and you don't be a hero, which is something I said a bunch of times while we were out there, I think most people with like reasonable driving experience and a good rig, they're probably fine. Where you
Yeah.
get into the weeds a little bit is there's a lot of fun stuff, and there's a lot of lines you're going to want to try that you probably will, and that's where it gets a little dicey. The other thing that somebody told me, or I listened to a podcast, that was what it was, and we said this in the last podcast, somebody said there's no go arounds, there's no what's the word I'm looking for?
Bypasses.
Bypasses.
you
Thank you. Goodness. There's no bypasses. And that's pretty true. There's just different lines,
Yeah.
It's just relentless, and it goes and it goes and it goes. But that being
Mhm.
said, 3 days, that's the ticket.
Perfect amount of days.
That's a good amount of time. You can wheel for most of the day and have fun. The other thing that we ran into, depending on your group size, is that a really big group is a real pain in the ass to manage. So our second day, so we did it in 2 days technically, one short day and one very long day.
Yeah.
But we spent 3 days on the trail. The second trail day, we split up into like small groups, so 4 people or so, and that made it way better. So some tip there.
Yeah, we're going to be going with 5 trucks. Should be pretty
perfect.
manageable.
yeah, that's a good-
We're going to have 8, and I was a little skeptical, but we're kind of dwindled down to 5 now. So I think we've got a pretty good group. So we'll see. Hopefully,
Yeah, that's perfect.
we don't find ourselves bottling everybody up. But
Yeah.
No, you should be okay. I mean, we had, so on the first day, our initial group was 14 vehicles, and that is what made us realize, okay, we should probably split these up a bit so that it's like a little bit easier to manage. So then, the next day of wheeling was like groups. It was like 5 or so, 4 or 5 in each group, and it was like, okay, this is perfect now. Everybody can kind of like manage to get through. We're a little ways ahead the next group. Like they basically would get to the obstacle we just did when we were finished. Say hello and then take off down to the next thing. So
yeah, that first little bit with 14.
Yeah,
I mean, the gatekeeper took an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Partly because I couldn't figure out how to get my lockers engaged, but that was just a minor.
Yeah.
It only took a while. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff. Well, that's awesome. And man, to street drive all the way out there and back.
That's a long ways, yeah.
I mean, the spares maybe just for the way back.
Yeah, no, it's a long ways. And then, once we get done with the Rubicon, we'll head probably towards Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, probably go play around over there for a little while before we head back. So, yeah, it's going to be pretty hard on the trucks, but I think we'll do all right. So,
nice.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that's great. Are you going to take like week and a half, 2 weeks to do the whole thing, or?
Yeah, we've got about 2 weeks planned to go out there. I think it's like 17th through the 28th. So we've got a pretty good amount of time. Obviously, you can never have enough when you're going out there, but I think it should be enough for us to get through the Rubicon, fix some things if we need to, and still be able to go play a little bit before we have to head home. So should be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, great area. Awesome. You're probably going to hit a bunch of wildfire smoke. We have so much smoke out here right now, but, and I know there was just a fire that started over there. I saw, Harry Wagner, the, old 4-wheel guy, just posted a thing about one of the fires on the Reno side, the east side. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty big, but I don't think you'll run into like an issue with things being closed. It's just going to be smoky.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Might not be. Might have a miracle. You never know.
It's a long way to drive to not be able to wheel the Rubicon. So.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Honestly, if you get that far, and you have you got to bail out, you should probably go to Johnson Valley if you really want to wheel. That's probably the move. There's no smoke down there. It's gorgeous. If you've never been, like that's one that nobody like drives across country for. So that'd be rad.
One of these days, I'm gonna drive. I'm gonna go to King of the Hammers and go have a good time. And we just haven't made the trip yet. To be honest, I've got probably 90% of the way through building a 4600 Ultra 4 Frontier.
Oh, cool.
And just didn't quite have the budget to be able to pull that off and go run King of the Hammers. And then I broke some stuff on my other Frontier and I started stealing parts. And now that truck's pretty much a bare shell now. But I've been itching to go do it and I've just never been. So on my list for sure.
Nice. Yeah, it's a cool place. Your Frontier is pretty rad. So that's not something you like see a ton of really well done Frontiers. What's the story on it? It looks like I'm assuming 37s probably.
38 right now. So it is a
Patagonia gets me every time.
Frontier. It is some Titan swap suspension stuff. So mid travel, long travel. I think there's a big debate about that, but rad flows, Heim joint steering stuff, basic leaf setup with external resis in the back, flatbed that we just recently built in house. The cab's been chopped up, so it's got can stuff the 38s, some 38-inch bead locks, 456s, lockers front and rear, bumpers, yada yada. The typical setup stuff usually, but I think there's not many of us on 38s. I think I'm actually maybe the only Frontier ever to be on that big of a tire without any body lift. So the idea was to try to keep it as low as I could. We do a lot of crawling stuff here on the East Coast, so it's definitely different. We've definitely broke a lot of stuff learning how to properly build a Nissan, but I think I finally figured out the sauce and it's just a unit now. So
That's awesome. What are those like? What's the weak point on them? What do they break?
So I have blown up a lot of diffs. The factory R180 diff is really weak. I was fine until I went to 35s. I blew up 2 R180s. So then I put in a Nissan Titan front diff. I blew up one of those in California or in Colorado, going up Poughkeepsie. I put 456s in my truck. I blew up another 450 M205 on Poughkeepsie. Same thing. All the way across the country. And then I blew up one of them at Red Clay Rally, and I think I have one now that's set up right. I've been jumping in, bouncing it on the 38s, and it seems to like it. So I think this one's gonna hold together. But I would say the front diffs, the casings are aluminum, so that you get a lot of has a long side, just like most IFS diffs, and it just torques the diff, and you end up getting some deflection in the case, which puts pressure on the pinion and eventually breaks the tooth off the pinion or the ring gear.
Right. Got it. That's it. So R180s are like, aren't they the Subaru differential that people put in the back of like 510s and stuff? Isn't that the same number?
Yeah. So
my reaching far enough.
Like, yeah. You hear like drift guys talk about R180s. Yeah, it's a pretty common small diff. They are not very strong at all. They're like a 7-point-something inch front diff, so they're really small and very weak, and they're in an awfully weak case. So yeah, all that combined, they break a lot. So
that's interesting. We we had a guy, Connor Heck, on here that has like a V8 swapped one with a bunch of stuff. Not a Frontier, but an Xterra. And it's super
with
cool.
VQ,
yeah.
Or did I say that? Did I go backwards?
You went backwards.
Yeah, VK.
What is it?
It's
VK V something else.
Yeah.
There we go. 37s, not 38s. So.
Yeah. But only part-time on 37s.
I think that, you know what, I don't want to
get in
the weeds.
I'm sure that it'll eventually, like, that's what it'll only have on it, but he was, at the time when we talked to him, it was part-time 37s, yeah, during the snow.
Honestly, if it wasn't such a pain in the ass, and so it's not cost-effective to have 2 wheels and tires, but I think I'd probably run 35s all the time just to not run bigger tires.
Well, you know.
But then I would never change them out. That's what would happen to me.
Yeah.
The only time I would do it is when
drive on the 38.
Yeah, see, that's fine. That's the way to do it. Like, there's no reason to do other things.
Just fully commit. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, so the funny thing was, I didn't even plan on putting that big of a tire on my truck. I was gonna buy another set of 35s. I actually bought a set of 35s, and I got them to the shop, and there was a set of 38s there, and my truck was on jack stands. Jokingly, I rolled a 38 up to my truck, and
oops,
I should have never done that. I think it wasn't even 2 days later, I was cutting my cab all the way to the carpet and plating everything and chopping everything in the front. So, things escalated quickly, but so I ended up putting those 35s on my wife's truck and put the 38s on mine. And yeah, I love it. I'm already contemplating 40s, trying to figure out how to make room for them, but we'll see how long I can make this front diff last on 38. So
there you go. It's funny. This where I'm having flashbacks to talking to ZR2. What's his name? The guy, Ryan. Man, I remembered one name and then not the next. I feel terrible. Anyways, Ryan. There's Ready Rig 4x4 on Instagram. He's on 40s on his ZR2, and that he had a lot of issues, and one of them that he has never had, it sounds like, is a front diff, which is kind of funny. So he's like on the opposite end, like he's having all sorts of other things he's dealing with all the time, but the diff, good to go. So, but it is that like pursuit of the bigger tire always.
Yeah.
I get that. Always bigger tires.
Sometimes I wish I could go
cool.
back.
That thing
maybe,
is sweet.
But...
Well, okay, so I got to ask this then. So I was looking at your Instagram page right now, and you're a drift guy, and I'm looking at these cars that it looks like you maybe have gone through over time.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing, right? It's a slippery slope. You're not going to go backwards to a super simple car because you've gotten to this point where you just keep moving and moving and moving, and like you want to. I get it. You definitely would want to go back, but then it's like, well, but then I've already felt this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I've had this real approach to my drift car stuff is I've tried to keep the cars more simple. The more simple the car, the less power it makes, the more seat time you're going to get.
Sure.
And that's kind of the way I built the Frontier, was build it with really, really strong parts. Don't go out and try to just build this super crazy 1-ton 40s LS truck. Build something that's real user friendly that I can drive across the country and get seat time with. I don't need a tow rig to get me to the trails. I can street drive it. It's still relatively good on fuel. Parts are cheap for it. So tried to keep my setup as simple as I could so that I could spend more money on adventures than buying a bunch of parts. And I think you see that a lot in the drift world now, is a lot of guys buying G35s and earlier Mustangs because you can pick them up for really, really cheap. They're pretty reliable, and you can go out and have a lot of fun with it. You don't need LS swap 240 with a cage and all this stuff to go out there and have fun. So I think that's kind of been the approach with not just my Frontier, but the same thing with our Land Cruiser as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there gets to be that point, right, where like you can build the faster car or, do all the things that make it more, and they are sure that it's better, but like how exponentially better is it for your investment and your time? And if you have to trailer the thing everywhere with a truck or a car, and you have to run a certain type of fuel, and you are terrified of it if it gets out of control, or like all the different things that happen, at some point you go, okay, can I do 80% of this in something that isn't like that? And if you can, I think that's probably the sweet spot.
But also, you don't know where the line is until you've crossed it. So there's the other problem.
That's the thing.
Yeah, and that's been the thing for me, is like I want to keep the truck. I know if I go too far with it, it's going to turn into a buggy. And I have another truck with the cage that I could build that to be. But for this truck, I'm trying to not overdo it. I know, yes, it's on a really big tire, but I'm a really long wheelbase, so I am kind of compensating for my length with the big tire. It's like, you see a Gladiator on 37s. It's really not that capable. It's not until you start putting like 40s on them where they're really starting to go places. So, I wanted to keep it as simple as I could, and try to keep the disposables cheap. I know that like once I start putting big tires on it, it gets really expensive tire wise, and then I'm gonna want to just buy sticky. If I'm spending this much money, I might as well buy Treps, and then I'm gonna go want to show off on my Treps, and the next thing you know, I'm on my roof, and now I'm welding a cage in my truck, and I think right now keeping the truck where it's at right now keeps me from running trails where to have fun I'm getting body damage. And that's kind of the big thing with keeping it like it is right now.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that 100%. I love more always, just like any of us, but like sensibly, it's nice to like find a spot where you're having fun, you're not putting so much into it, and it's usable. Our recent trip, we're doing the Rubicon. I think Colin found that a little bit with his ZR2. It was like, okay, I'm at a spot where like this can do most of the things everybody else can do. It's a great drive on the way down and back. Like it's nice. I'm not worrying about. I'm not going to roll it because it's low and nice and easy, and everything's fine.
Yeah. The only concern was body damage, which I avoided. So that was cool.
Yeah, well, at least you did.
At least I did. Some of you other people didn't, but
that's fun. Cool. What's with your shop? Are you doing all kinds of things? Are you doing like overland type stuff, off-road stuff, a little bit of both? Any custom builds? Like what's going on there?
Yeah, so we're doing a little bit of both. So we are essentially a full service, full fabrication shop. So we are, I would say the majority of our work is more of like a overland based stuff where it's, the bumpers, basic lifts. But we do a lot of fabrication. I think we're starting to get a lot more guys that are wanting more. Um, We've got a couple 4-link, 3-link setups that are coming down the pipeline that we're going to be doing some 1-ton stuff. We've got an LS Land Cruiser in the shop right now. We're finishing up, so we're definitely doing some fabrication. We're doing some really cool builds. We're not quite where I want to be. I think everybody that owns a shop, there's always more that you want, but I think we're heading in the right
Yeah.
direction of what we want to do. But I ultimately I want to build more off-road based stuff though.
Yeah. Do you feel like your area is it good for that? Do you feel like like your community is ready for someone to be able to build a level of vehicle that you want, or?
Yes and no. I think Atlanta is really changing. I think you see a lot of people wanting to get more into the outdoors, and you're seeing a lot more vehicles getting built. I think
Yeah.
that right now it's a big movement towards like more of the overland stuff. But there is the guys that got into it a couple of years ago are kind of past the gravel roads, and they've all gotten body damage and gone out and pushed the limits and been out west, and everybody's trying to start making that step to something more now. So you're seeing more solid axle trucks popping up and that type of thing. So I think that in a few years, I think we're going to be doing a lot of that, but I think it's going to be baby steps working towards that
Yeah.
as kind of the community here kind of shifts that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always an interesting thing where I started a shop years ago, and I wasn't quite sure if the community was like into what I was doing, and we built a community, and it was great, and no regrets on it. But there's always that thought when you're running a business like that of, is that customer there? And when you're running something that's a little more passionate, and you're like building a thing that you're passionate about and you're using your creativity for, I think sometimes making sure that community is ready for it, I think is the best way to put it, is good. So it sounds like you might be kind of riding that wave into where you need to be with it, which is nice.
Yeah. I think that we've had a good influence on what's going on in Georgia. There's not many people that are taking groups of our size, like, guiding 15 trucks across the country to go run Moab and drive 15 trucks up Hell's Gate. There's just not many people that are doing that. So we've definitely caught people's attention, and people are wanting to do more. I think having our guided rides, getting people out and kind of pushing the limits with their more stock vehicles has really accelerated the movement of going from more of like a 33s and camper setup to like big tires and more of a crawler setup. So
yeah, overlanding's kind of it's the gateway drug to actual off-roading.
Yeah, if you didn't come in it the other way, which I can't really figure out how other people. I guess it's like you're into trucks and you like,
or just into camping in general.
Yeah, and then you go into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right, Colin. I think that that is, you get people that, and I've seen this go both ways on like the local Land Cruiser club and things like that, where it's like you go out there and there's like, let's say 15 rigs, 10 of them are on very mild lift tires, whatever. And then a few of them are like in the middle. And then you got a couple guys that are like, okay, we've got, this one's 3-link, this one's on 42s, whatever the thing is. And then people will start to kind of split into two groups where it's like, okay, we're following this guy with the big tires, and everybody else is like, that's too much for us. No thanks. I think the guiding thing is underrepresented. I think that they're more, I don't know how, but motorsports racing has track days.
Yep.
And there just aren't countrywide, there just aren't enough events to get into to try to learn how to do off-road stuff. I think like Overland Expo, maybe it's helping that, some of these other runs, but there's not a lot of people doing it.
No, there's not. I think that we do a lot of that type of stuff, like educational based rides where we're taking people out and like really pushing them to do hard stuff. But yeah, I think there needs to be like mass group. Like there's all these big companies that could have such an influence on getting people into this at a way bigger level, but no one's really like setting up these small rides to make that happen.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because like if you think about like the track day thing, people are learning how to drive like more safely, and they're learning about safety equipment, and they're learning about brakes, and they're learning about all these things that are not quite as sexy, that you don't read about. I'm going to say in the magazines, and that's not a thing, but whatever. In the magazines. But, it's all about, can I make 1,000 horsepower? Can I roll race this thing? Whatever. But like the people that are going to these track days, which are a lot of people, are figuring out like, oh man, I'm underbraked. I need to do this. I don't know how to drive this thing, whatever. And I don't think that exists so much in off-road. I think people just kind of figure it out.
It's kind of winging it. And and I think that, some of it too is the hyper focus, at least right now, in like the overland space, where it's like you don't need necessarily any training to go take a forest road out to a camp spot. That's not. I mean, sure, it's good to have some sort of concept of how to self recover and things like that, but like that is there's not really a whole lot that you can learn there outside of just going out and trying it, other than not knowing where to go, I guess. But but and then like I said, it's the gateway to off-roading. It's like, oh well, I wasn't able to do X last time I was out. I should get a locker or tires or whatever, and maybe I'll be able to do that, and just keep trying. But there does seem to be that lacking in that space of, oh well, you've got, you just bought this new JL and put 37s on it, like doesn't mean you know how to use it. Like there should be something available to show you, like, oh no, look at what it can do. You don't even have to really know how to use it that well, and it'll surprise you because it's a JL on 37s, like.
It's definitely more capable than you are.
You can go pretty crazy places in the JL on a 37. And that's the thing is like, we go out and I've got friends that have like, I have a friend Joe with an Isuzu Trooper on like a 32, and dude goes everywhere. I mean, everywhere. He's been all out west with us, and it somehow just goes. And then I have friends that are on the same trail on 37s that are struggling. And just because they built a truck, but there was no seat time. And I try to, try to explain this to my drift friends. It's no different than trying to learn how to go fast in a car. You need to start simple. And you need to get just the basics of, some basic protection so you can kind of push the truck without damaging it. And then just go out there and start feeling it out and picking lines, going out with groups that have experience, and watching educational stuff and watching rock color videos of guys picking lines, and then just take baby steps into it. But I think, there's this big push of, social media. Let's just build this super cool truck and then like go out, but we don't ever do anything with it. It's like, why did you spend all that money and you're using none of the gear that you have? And most of the time it's because they don't know how. And once it's not mainstream to like want to learn and like go out with groups to want to learn. Like people just think you should get in your truck and go out and do it. It's not that easy. So I think there needs to be like a movement of like wanting to do educational rides and more groups wanting to educate people to get to that more off-road point. So
No, I agree. I think that, I mean, I'm just gonna go one step to the side here. It also helps, people understand how to respect the things they're around, right? Like, it's like track day, drift guys, whatever. If you're working the track and you're driving it, autocross, another example, then you're getting a respect for how that's laid out, how to maintain it, how all of the pieces that come together to make the event work. And so you end up with better people usually as a result. And I think that's important. We got a lot of idiots with $120,000 crazy rigs that are cool, but they're putting them around on gravel roads and they don't know. And, most of those people probably are totally fine and they're trying to respect the environment, whatever. It's the things they're around and they don't care, or they care, but maybe they don't know why. Maybe they don't completely understand why we try to pick up every stupid piece of garbage we see out there, all those like extra little pieces that if you're around it and you're doing it all the time, you understand why you do that. You want to keep all that stuff open, all those things.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
a little philosophical tangent. Sorry.
No, I think you're just so right though. Like, I think it's like there needs to be more direction of like people going out and learning. It can be like a fun environment, but I think like people need to go out with groups in the beginning. I think it's really important to, you learn the ways of the off-roading, if you will, like keeping things clean and how to pack your truck and what to bring with you and what spares you might need and how you're finding camp spots when you've broken down and now it's late at night. And all of these things, there's so much to learn. And I think like for myself, I spent so much time making mistakes and fixing things that were completely avoidable. And I'm not gonna lie, I went out with a couple of Jeep groups because I wanted to get more educated and I want to learn more and get better at spotting. And I think that helped me out when in the very beginning. And that's our big thing now is just trying to like educate people so they don't make the same mistakes that I made and waste a lot of money.
Yeah, I think that's good. And we make fun of Jeep people all the time, but they really have a good community. So whatever. Even, except for the ducks,
the duck community, but yeah,
it's bad here in the Southeast.
I bet it is. We get a decent amount, but I can only imagine.
Yeah,
it's a different breed for sure.
Do you get a lot of special editions? We were just Colin, you weren't with us, but we were just over the weekend. We were at a place locally, and out front there was I think it was JL, pretty sure JL modified, whatever, and it had it was the YetiCon was the thing. It was white. It took me a while to figure out what that might mean, but it was white. I think that's the only reason that it was the YetiCon.
Probably a Rubicon. So
it was. I don't know. Probably.
Yeah. Well, even if they aren't, they'll still put those stickers on their hood. So.
You can only imagine the ones. I just saw one just the other day called Swamp Donkey. And you can only imagine what the people look like driving it. So it was that's your typical Georgia Jeeper is tons of duck, some weird saying on the side. The typical, white Oakleys.
Oh, yeah.
Doors off. Oh, yeah. Whipping it in and out of traffic. And the most clapped out death wobble Jeep you've ever seen.
I believe it. Yeah, I definitely believe it.
Yeah.
We're not without some of those things, but I don't think we have enough culture in the Pacific Northwest to have really good ones. Oh, that's good. Oh man. Okay, well, what's next? So you've got this big Rubicon trip coming up. Do you have other? I'm sure you've got normal regular events on the schedule, but like what's big? What's upcoming?
So I don't know. So we're obviously going to go do the Rubicon here pretty soon. We've got a couple local rides, nothing too crazy. I know that next year we have been toying around with the idea of doing kind of like we've been discussing is a kind of educational, more harder off-road type of event, like a 2-day thing between the San Juans and Moab, or a 2-week thing, I should say. And yeah, doing like a bigger event. I think that's kind of what we are leaning towards is doing something like big, fun, educational, gets everybody in the community involved. Um,
Yeah.
and then of course we're itching to go to Alaska. That's been
Man.
on our list. We thought this was the year for it. And I'm thinking next year is gonna be the year we do Alaska. So, and then we continue to kind of work at the idea of doing the pan. We kind of have this like 5-year goal of doing the pan. We want to cross the Darien. It's something that we've talked about with some people in the industry. I think that could make it possible. It just, things are changing right now in the world, so it really just depends on how safe it is to be able to go down there. But I think our
Sure.
big goal right now, 5-year goal, is definitely the pan and the Darien. So working towards
That's
that.
very
So.
cool.
Very cool.
Nice. Yeah, that's an awesome goal. That'd be cool. Get a good group of people together and do it. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, go get killed in the jungle. Sounds great.
I mean, seems like a good place to go. Probably. I don't know.
At least you were doing something cool when it happened, right?
I kind of stopped watching this, but have you guys seen that? It's like Toyota World Travelers. That couple that has the Chinook with the like 80 series chassis.
Mm-hmm.
Thing is sweet, and they went everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're not back, I don't think, but they were in like. They were pretty deep into South America for a while.
They might be back.
Yeah, they might be. It was cool.
Yeah, I think I just saw.
Yeah, that was cool.
In a roundabout way that they were back now.
I think one of the things I liked about their content was this is totally counterintuitive
to
what we just talked about.
So they've got a little bit easier than us when it comes to being liked.
That passport, you're good to go. They were not like unprepared; they were very prepared. But like there was a couple moments in the first few videos I watched where it was like they don't know what they're doing, and it was like almost this endearing quality that they were learning how to do it.
I honestly like when I first started watching, I was like, they should turn around. They are not ready.
Yeah. They like went through a washout and I was like, you got to figure this out, man. Like this is easy.
Yeah. You should have thought about this when you were at home. Like, yeah. I was worried, but I mean, they've gone everywhere and they haven't laid that thing on its side, which I thought they were going to. And
no,
it seems like they've had a good time doing it. So
yeah, it seems good.
Yeah, that seems to be what can really blow up your internet presence is not knowing what you're doing, but going full tilt into it with disregard to anything poorly that could happen, and just whatever happens, man. And then that's what drags a lot of people in to see, like, okay, are these guys going to be absolutely terrible or are they going to figure it out?
I think you got to have that an aesthetically cool vehicle and some great camera work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, we were talking about videos. We're trying to like catch up on some of your YouTube stuff. And there was a couple where, stuff was going wrong and we're like, this is right. These guys are good. I think.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. That's what drew me into your guys' stuff initially, was like the first couple things that I saw were like you were talking about earlier, some very stock rigs just being, hammered on off-road, which I was like, oh, these guys are kind of our speed here. I like this. This is we're taking stuff that we probably shouldn't take out to places that we shouldn't take them, and going ahead and doing it anyway, because why not? I mean, we just had our guy with the least capable vehicle, quote unquote least capable vehicle, with us on the Rubicon, which was an XJ, which granted is a bit of a cheater chassis, but an XJ that's only on 33s and like 2 inches of lift and no lockers.
Mm.
And
Nice.
yeah, he did the whole Rubicon. I mean, he did catch some damage, but he did do the whole Rubicon. Like,
he did it well too.
Yeah, did it well, because that was just that was like all driver. I've seen that dude do some stuff in that thing that he should not be able to do. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, all driver, I think. I mean, an XJ is great, but all driver. What's your like going through some of these videos and kind of looking through it, like what's your core group of rigs that you guys are taking, to lead these things? Like what's the rundown?
So typically my truck is typically the lead truck for pretty much any trip we go on. My wife has a mildly built 80 series Land Cruiser. We've got a Hilux that's on 35s that is pretty capable. Our buddy Matt, he has a triple locked 100 series on 35s. And then our buddy Ian has a Land Cruiser that's on 37s that it gets down. So that's kind of, I would say, like kind of our core group. We have a lot of friends that wheel with us, but yeah, I would say that's probably the core group of trucks.
I'm asking because I kept seeing this Excursion pop up, and I just really wanted to know the story with the Excursion.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second.
I'm trying to lead.
I have an 80 series. I'm an 80 series guy, so your wife's rig is really cool. I'm going to say that, but that Excursion is something else.
So I am really impressed by an Excursion. So that thing is like a $1,600 V10 beater that's been like spray painted, and it's got blocks with worn out leaves. It's got 5 something gears because they come factory with like Dana 60s. It's got a rear locker. That's it. And it will go freaking anywhere. Like you can just floor it and hit things. I have a lot of respect for Dana 60s. You can jump them, and like I've never seen an Excursion fly before, but the one time I have, I thought for sure it was going to total it and hit the ground like a champ. Dented the earth. Didn't dent the Excursion. It is impressive.
Damn.
I would buy one. I would, if you want a budget truck that you can just full send and have to do zero maintenance on, buy an Excursion.
I'm into that. We've had a lot of weird discussions with our friends about the ultimate like overlander vehicle to do the things we do, and a lot of us get real butthurt anytime someone brings up something really big. It's like, why would you pick a Tahoe? It's so big. And the Excursion is such a on the top end of that scale.
Big, yeah.
But everything underneath it is big too, so it makes a lot of sense. Like it's if you can fit it here, it's gonna make it.
Yeah. Be ready to buy doors. It's had all of the doors replaced. It's blown out 3 windows. The quarter panels are smashed.
I was going to say
the fenders are
that big side window.
It's wrecked. It's destroyed. But yeah, you can squeeze it down stuff. Well, you just, you got to not care about the body work. But it's pretty reliable. Like it doesn't have a dipstick in it. So he'll just hit it.
So it's always fine.
The oil light, it will lose oil pressure, and then he'll just pour more oil in it. And the trans pan got completely dented in, and every once in a while it will leak the fluid out, and when you're climbing up a rock ledge, it'll pop itself in neutral, and then you'll just go flying backwards and hit stuff. But
oh my god,
pretty strong stuff.
I'm into it. I love this.
And we've had this conversation before. The ain't care really unlocks a lot of capability.
Oh God, yeah.
So there's where that comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's that's like driver skill without inhibition, basically, is what gets you there.
Yeah,
I think. That's awesome. Cool. Colin?
Well, we'd see. We had.
Oh, did you get some questions?
I've got some questions from the group as a whole, so that's good too. So I know it's early in your time at the shop. Like you said, you've only been really doing it for about 8 months. But we are curious as to what is one of the most challenging builds that you've been dealing with thus far.
Cool. I would say our biggest struggles we've had is trying to get parts in. People say that things are in stock and then we don't get them. But I would say like the hardest build we've had to do was we did a FJ Cruiser 4-wheel drive swap. We had a 2nd gen Tacoma that we did a FJ Cruiser manual case, and 4-wheel drive swapped. It was a 2-wheel drive truck, and that was a little tricky. There wasn't much information that was out there, and the information that was out there was wrong. So it was a lot of trying to figure things out as we went along. But it turned out awesome. It's still my favorite thing we've done at the shop. And the truck never is going to see dirt, which is sad, but it's just done with all OEM Toyota stuff. And, it's got a beautiful, TIG welded stainless steel, pie cut exhaust and all types of good stuff. So yeah, we really enjoyed putting it together. That was tough though. That truck really whooped our ass. So yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I'm sure. That seems like a pain.
One of the other things was, and I again, it's what I remember from some of the very early posts of your guys' wheeling. So it's very wet down there, and granted, we are from the Pacific Northwest, but we live in the most eastern part almost that you can. So we're in a bit of a desert. We don't quite have to deal with how wet things get. And so since that was probably what you're most used to as far as the wet wheeling, mud, crap like that, is there an area you've been to that was kind of a shock to the system as far as how you wheel and or made it so that you wanted to wheel more of that rather than your mud?
Yeah. So here in the Southeast, we have crazy rocks, but they're always covered in red clay mud. So it's definitely a different type of wheeling down here. So going out to Moab, I really was way shocked to me the first time I went. It's a way different style of wheeling. The way that you approach lines is way different. There's definitely things that I do in Moab that you could never do in the Southeast. So that's what's kind of hooked me to go to Moab. I think we've done 6 or so trips out to Moab now. And every time I go, I still feel like I'm learning and kind of pushing myself more. I think I've been a little bit of a sissy in Moab. There's been some trails that I really wanted to go try, but I've been kind of nervous too. And then by the end of the week, I'm wishing I had gone and run them just because there's so much grip and stuff. And it's just, we're not used to that here in the Southeast. So I'm still warming up to all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I haven't done Moab. We just talked pre-podcast about how that we really need to go. But the no trees thing kind of freaks me out a little bit. Like we end up on some really off camber, really big drop stuff, but it never really bothers me that much because I always feel like, there's a tree like not that far down. Not that it's going to help, but like it just feels like there's something going on. But every time I see whatever thing on the like the rim at Moab, and I'm just like, that's like 1,000 feet. Like I don't know. Yeah. It's incredibly terrifying.
Yeah, that's kind of the beauty of the Moab stuff is the beauty, the scenery that you get when you're out there. I mean, and I've been out there. I haven't done a ton of trails because it seems like every time I've gone out there, I've had like either a very early stages build or like completely stock rig. So I've only gotten to do like some of the things out there, which I would like to do some of the more hard things. But even some of the easier ones are just like crazy vistas and like, there's some spots that you're kind of on edge, like, okay, nothing really here to stop me if I was to go over. So,
yikes.
Yeah, no, that's been my thing. It's like I don't do like the heights very well. So some of these shelf roads and these sketchy cliff edges, they kind of sketch me out, and I'm not used to that. There's probably a reason why there's a few trails that I haven't done because I'm pretty sketched out to fall off the edge of a mountain. But
sure,
yeah, in the East Coast, like we trees are we hit a lot of trees. You're constantly sliding into trees down here. Everybody gets tree damage. You can tell who's actually been on a mildly hard trail in Georgia because they all have body damage. But yeah, it's weird out there because there's no trees and you don't feel protected. Yeah, I just can't get used to the cliff edges, especially, in the sand, like in the San Juans, there's been some times where there's snow and you're on these like little edges and the truck's sliding. I think that's the part that probably gets me the most. Yeah, cliff edges. Sketchy, don't like cliff edges. Snowy cliff edges, those suck. Don't like those. Yeah, top of the world. I crawled to the edge. I didn't even go stand on the edge like a cool guy and take a cool picture. I literally crawled to the edge, walked away, drank a beer, went down.
Gotta calm the nerves with a beer.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't know if I would have been much better off there. I do not enjoy like sharp cliff faces.
So guys got a little bit of Shawano in you.
Yeah, I guess so.
You go out to that viewpoint on Imogene.
Yeah.
Just like kind of holding on to the rig as you look.
Oh yeah, like Black Bear.
Yeah. No thanks.
First time I did Black Bear, cruised down it, was like, hell yeah, that was so badass. We did Black Bear. Second time I went and ran Black Bear, I got to the bottom and really questioned why the hell I was there and why I did that. And we all looked at each other like that was the least fun thing I've ever done and regretted it. And I would never probably do it again.
Man, it's rough.
Easiest trail, not for me.